Yo, what's up, YouTube? My name is Keenan Joseph Kompon. It is currently 7:07 a.m., Saturday, January 17th, 2026, and I'm recording this video as an introduction to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be talking a bit about who I am, what I'm going to be posting, and just really what I'm all about. The two main key aspects of my identity that I'd use to describe myself is an entrepreneur and a fitness coach. I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit for basically my whole life, even with silly random examples. When I would play video games in, high school or elementary, like with Clash Royale, I had to be the clan leader, or Warframe, I had to make my own dojo, even if it made things slower. This may seem like a stupid example, but I've always wanted to, like, have my own creative vision and serve others through my own vision, and actually like put in as much work as I possibly can into something that is mine, and I'm at university here. I'm 23 years old. This is my 5th year at university, and I was in an entrepreneurship incubator. And during that, I started a business. I got some success with it, but it wasn't what I was really passionate about. But I'll talk with that more about that later in the video. But with fitness coaching too, I've always had a huge passion for the gym, and fitness coaching is something that when I started doing it, I started to really fall in love with it. I really do love being in the gym, coaching others, and it's a huge passion of mine. And I don't say any of those to exalt myself. A lot of those endeavors that I had with entrepreneurship, a lot of them fell flat because I wasn't the man that I needed to be, because all these things are vessels of self-improvement, vessels for personal development. So, a few years back, I wasn't in the position where I could truly, build something that I wanted to build. But now, leading up to this point in my life, I know that this is what I want to be doing. I want to be, serving others through content. And I took a break from social media because I was posting last summer. Just me, talking about some biohacky stuff, not, super serious posting. But I wasn't really living out everything in my day-to-day life. So I took a step back from social media to truly work on myself and become the kind of person who can, serve others through having this vision. Like, I have this vision that I'm just obsessed about. Whenever I'm not occupied, all I can think about is self-improvement and serving others and making content. And, forming a community here. It's really what I want to be doing with my life. And, the real start of this, I've always had this obsession with self-improvement, through elementary and high school. But I sort of did it. I was sort of drifting through life. In my younger years, I was drifting through life. Even though I was consuming self-improvement content, I was more mentally masturbating. I was getting off to the thought of taking action and not actually elevating myself and actually pushing myself every day. And, throughout elementary, I sort of coasted my way to university. I just kind of coasted my way here. And when I had complete control over what I was doing and I was in this new environment, I fell apart because I didn't build up a person who, had the clear direction. Even though I had these interests, I was still getting lulled to sleep. The only time I really viscerally felt, like deeply felt, the level of my ambition that I wanted to reach was when I couldn't drown out my thoughts with YouTube or with whatever. With scrolling on reels, is when I was in the shower or in bed, and I just felt that crippling anxiety that I know if you're watching this video, you felt, where you just feel the discrepancy of where you could be and where you are now. The path that that you're on versus the path that you feel like you could achieve, your potential. And when I got here, I was dropping classes, nearly failing, a ton of courses. And after my second year, around this time a few years back, like, I got back to school. My sleep schedule was fucked. I thought I failed all my courses. I really felt that feeling like, this is it. I failed my courses, whatever. I drove back home. I threw my bags around my room. I doom scrolled before bed. I fell asleep. I woke up at maybe 11 a.m., doom scrolled until 1 p.m. And then I just looked around my room. and I saw all my bags that I didn't even bother to unpack. And I just thought, I can't live like this. I couldn't even drown out my thoughts. I couldn't even, get off to motivational content. I just sort of sat there with this knot in my stomach, feeling like, throughout my entire life, I've been in love with self-improvement. It's all I could think about, but I fell asleep. I conformed. And this is, honestly, university is one of the most difficult places for that too, because everyone here has insane limiting beliefs. And, I sort of just conformed. I fell asleep. I fell into this deep sleep. But in that moment, I felt like I was stepping out of myself. And I just thought, I can't live like this. And that day, I pushed my wake up down to 4:45 a.m. I was popping melatonin. I was taking cold showers every single morning. I did not fucking miss. I was literally hallucinating spiders. I would see like spiders and I'd like throw my pillow at them or like on the side of my face. I was hearing noises because I was so sleep deprived, but I didn't give a shit. I had a vision of the path that I know that would lead me to the improvement that I know I would need to get back onto the path that, I envisioned for myself when I was young. And it was rocky, it wasn't smooth sailing after that. It was still rocky, but I just kept pushing myself. And with my grades, it's like crazy, like how high I've been able to just elevate my grades and then put that as a secondary part of my life where I'm just sort of pushing myself every single day. Like, and that's the real, the heart of all this. The real heart of this is when I would get money from some of my past businesses or when I would get money from a job that I had, like on paper too, even though, when I got to university, I gained 50 pounds. Like I gained 50 pounds my first 2 years of university. I had no energy. I was so sad, but on paper, I wasn't failing any of my courses. I was in university. I had a job that was remote online that paid $28 an hour as my first job, which is pretty damn good. Even on paper, all these things were like that, but it was the gap between me and my potential. And what you have to realize is the pain, the journey, that is the goal. The only days that I would actually feel like I didn't have this knot in my stomach in bed or in the shower was the days that I actually knew that I left it out on the table, like that I actually gave everything in that day. Even if my reality was the same the night before, I knew that I actually pushed myself and was getting closer to the person I would need to be, because we enter, just as we enter this life with nothing, that's also how we leave this life. And the only thing that we actually have is the person that we became through the journey. I used to think, why do I struggle with everything? Why do I binge eat every single night? I would think that I was binge eating like crazy. I just had no energy. I was sleeping in every night. I struggled with everything, with lust. Just in Steam alone. Just in Steam alone, I have over a year. As in, if you sat down and played video games for a year straight without getting up, I have more than that in just that one platform alone. That's, how much of my life I wasted. And I just thought, why me? Why me? But if I didn't have these experiences to overcome, what the fuck would I have to talk about here? I would think, I'm so busy with university. I'm so busy with all these things. This is like the heaviest course, the heaviest course load I've ever had in a term. And I thought, I had that feeling like, maybe I should start later. But what the fuck would I have to talk about? It's such a stupid mindset. Like the people who say, I'll work hard when I have a job that pays a lot or a successful business. It's like, it misses the whole point. It's a fallacy. It doesn't exist. It misses the whole point. And I don't know about you guys, but I never fucked with like the silver spoon kids. I never vibed with their stories. It's always the people like Batman. Batman who both his parents were killed in front of him as a kid. Like it was that pain that makes him Batman, As just, a random example. And that was a huge part of my life, is dropping my ego and always just trying, switching my frame of having a positive mindset. Mindset was the one thing I struggled with most. I was super passionate about the gym. So learning in abundance and being consistent wasn't like the most difficult thing ever. I did have some troubles with consistency, but, getting in the gym wasn't awful. Even though my nutrition was shit, it was just the gym, it releases endorphins. It's enjoyable. My supplements, I have like a wall of supplements there. And all these things were stuff I'm passionate about. But the real thing, the real obstacle that I had to overcome, that I know is the avenue where I can provide the most value because I struggled with it so deeply, is, the bookshelf right above there is some of my books. I just, when I dropped my ego and realized that, the mindset, the paradigm that I built in my life has led me to this, has led me to being an acne-ridden, fat, depressed loser, where I couldn't even sit alone with my own thoughts. I had to have music playing in my ears, or a YouTube video, or doom scrolling. And I had to drop my ego and realize that I just have to enter this learning frame where, what can I learn from everything? What can I learn from, everything around me? A huge example of this, I'm going to use an example that some people may find a little controversial, but someone like Elon Musk. Like, is it true? This is the thing too, like, your beliefs are your reality. They become your reality. If you believe that the world is this evil, hateful place, or you believe that money is hard to come by, or you believe, like I did, I used to believe that I would never be able to develop a physique that I'd be proud of because my genetics weren't good enough. So I didn't train with intensity, so I didn't fuel myself optimally, so I negatively charged my mind, so I didn't get a physique I'd be proud of. And now I've been able to elevate my physique to a point where, like, I didn't even know I'd be able to, like, it sometimes feels like a little surreal, because I wasn't really paying close attention to my physique because I've lost, about 40 pounds of that fat and packed on a ton of muscle in the process. And because I knew that, the game doesn't change. It doesn't matter if there's 16-year-olds who are bigger than you'll ever be. You see it on Instagram, even though it sort of negatively charges your mind. A lot of people, like, see that stuff, get discouraged. But it doesn't serve you to have that mindset. It doesn't serve you to have those thoughts. With the Elon Musk example, is it true that he's kind of like a cringe autistic guy? It's kind of weird. Yeah, it is true. But it's also true that he has this insane work ethic. Because in the entrepreneurship incubator that I was at here, when I started one of these businesses, they had like this whole hour-long thing talking about Elon Musk and what he's overcome as this huge inspirational story. And I was like, I had no idea. I had no idea he was built like that. And whereas most people would think, oh, his dad owns an emerald mine, you know how many people have billionaire families and they do nothing with it? An absurd amount. But he willingly put himself through shit to get to where he needs to go. And is it true that if his dad, wasn't rich, he wouldn't be able to do it? Maybe, but I don't give a shit. Why? That thought doesn't serve me. Why the fuck would I believe something that doesn't serve me? You can either have limiting beliefs or you can have empowering beliefs. And I always just try to look for the good. And that's the thing. For me, I had to draw my ego and realize I can be right or I can be rich. I'm not saying I'm rich. I'm nowhere close to where I want to be, in any real aspect of my life. Like, I'm always just looking towards that next level, but just flipping that paradigm in your life. Like, if you look around your room and you look for all the brown things in your room, if you may have heard this before, this sort of anecdote, like, just look around your room, look at all the brown things, or wherever you are, just all the brown things, take a mental image of it, close your eyes, and then try to think of all the red things that are in your room or around you. Your brain will selectively find what you are looking for, whether it be success or failure, a good physique, or, being fat. And a lot of people just, like, I would tear down other people because them reaching the position that they were at was, like, brought out my inadequacies, So I had to, kill my ego, kill that version of me, and become someone who just thinks in abundance and is constantly positive. And, this morning, I got up 4:25 a.m., hit my light therapy. I just elevated my mindset. I put myself in a frame of mind because I think I wake up negative a lot of the time. So I attack that problem by, I read. I have a book that I read in the morning, and I just elevated my mindset. I did some fasted cardio. Well, it wasn't actually fasted because I had some black coffee with some honey in it, drank that, went to the gym. I took some electrolytes too, ran on the treadmill for about 20, 25 minutes, stayed outside in the freezing cold for a bit just to, cool down. And then I came here and I did that to elevate my frequency. Like, I used to also think like, oh, it's suboptimal. I used to think, oh, running's too high impact. It'll be bad for my knees. My knees haven't felt better. It was incline. I do incline treadmill. I just feel great. It makes me feel great. It makes my joints feel great. It just makes me feel great because I tried. I lead with action. That was another thing I struggled with so much. I was always concerned with, like, what's the most optimal way to do this or that? But it doesn't fucking matter. That's the kind of mindset that makes people not lead with action and become complacent. And after this, I'm going to have a cold shower. And it just gets me right, It just gets me right is the best way I can describe it. And I do just want it all. And that's, I sort of just started ranting in this video, but that is really what I'm all about. I just genuinely want it all. And I'm going to be making videos on my mindset. I'm going to be making videos on fitness, on supplements, on the biohacking stuff. But, the key part of it all is your mindset. It all comes down to your mindset. It's the cornerstone. It's the foundation that everything else is built on top of. And then you use your habits throughout the day, like the habit of me shooting out of bed, doing my light therapy. That's a habit that reinforces and elevates my mindset. It has a synergistic effect. I fuel myself optimally to have a clear mind. I train with intensity. It's sort of like an art form to me. All these things, it all comes down to your mindset. And that's the big thing that I want to make content on. And I'm really looking forward to it. I know that after taking that break and really pushing myself, elevating myself, I'm in the position where I know that I can, truly serve others. And, another part of this is documenting my progression, improving the way I speak to the camera, because it is kind of weird, speaking to a camera, but improving the way that I speak, the way I carry myself, the way my physique looks, just always trying to grow and learn. And if any of that sounds like something that would be interesting, if any of this resonated with you, which it probably did if you're still 17 minutes into the video, but I don't know how many people are going to watch this. This is sort of just the intro, because I want people to see where I came from and really the mindset that I had to have to be the catalyst to actually start pushing myself and being consistent every single day in the vision that I have. And I think it's going to be beautiful. I love seeing these people, like where these really successful guys I look up to came from. And I know I'm going to document that here. I know exactly where I'm going. I have this vision that I just constantly see replay in my mind over and over and over again. And I know now's the time to truly commit to posting and serving others. And like I said, I'm not trying to exalt myself. I'm nowhere close to where I want to be. But yeah, if any of that sounds interesting to you, feel free to like, subscribe. My Instagram's in the description. You can follow that. I'm going to be posting on that quite often. And one thing I want to leave you guys with is a lot of people have this mistake. I used to have this idea of self-improvement, this deeply rooted idea. And it only takes one limiting belief or one misconception. It only takes one or a handful of these things to completely kill any ambition or kill any progress you would have made. It only takes one. Honestly, it just takes one to kill the whole thing. And I used to have this belief that like self-improvement was thinking your way to perfect feeling action. Like you just think your way into making the action feel perfect. But in reality, it's taking the action even though it feels imperfect. And then being positively reinforced that leading with action brings the best results. Just pushing yourself. Like for me, a week and a half ago, I just had this thought, like, what if I just stopped drinking coffee? I did it for a week and a half and I thought, I prefer drinking coffee. I just tried it. I didn't look online and go, oh, what's most optimal? I don't give a fuck. Another thing you got to realize is, do these things exist to you just in theory? For me, a lot of this stuff, incline running on a treadmill only existed to me in terms of theory. Being jacked or being lean, like I'm getting pretty close to, being properly lean, the leanest I've ever been in my life, only existed to me in theory. And I thought I had all the right opinions on it. You can be right or you can be rich. And when I say rich, I just mean that internally. You can have, be rich in your mindset, rich in your physique, you can be elevated. Okay, so that's it for this video. Hope you got some value from it. Feel free to like, subscribe. Instagram's in the description, and I'm really looking forward to getting active on this channel. So let's get it.